May was a month of complete madness around here. We were racing to finish this greenhouse building that we started last year while also scrambling to plant the entire garden. The grind was real and we felt it. And I can't say that this is an uncommon theme around here.
Very challenging. I'm not feeling the best right now.
A year ago, we found ourselves in the same position, trying to beat the clock and put in an entire garden from the ground up.
Put in a garden including fencing, high tunnel, beds, soil, all of it, and growing food.
We had to build all the raised beds for the garden. We had to make our own soil for these beds,
Right there.
protect the garden from wildlife, and get all the plants in the ground before the summer season started. It was absolutely wild, but we got it done with a lot of hard work. We were both so happy to have that construction part done.
It's hard to build a garden and plant it in 1 year, but hey, we're go-getters.
And we honestly had something to show for it. We were able to get a great amount of produce from that garden the first year. When we moved here over 2 years ago, this space was a bare field.
It's February 3rd, 2024, and we are mapping out where we are going to be putting our future garden behind me.
We knew we wanted a large garden, and we knew this was going to be the perfect spot for it with the ample amount of sun that it received. We also knew that it was going to take a considerable amount of groundwork to make it happen. The Branson didn't let us down, and we got right to work even when there was still snow on the ground. We've got short summer seasons here in Alaska, and we had to make every minute count. This part was a real feat. We had to melt all of the wood for the beds.
We have over 100 pieces of lumber that we're going to be using in the garden.
Fill those beds with soil, and not just any soil. We used quite a bit of the native dirt that we have here. We screened it, and we amended it with copious amounts of manure or compost. Having a mountain of manure at our disposal couldn't make me happier. Now, we knew we needed a heavy-duty fence going into this, and that's easier said than done.
First of many posts down.
It came at a tremendous cost to
Nice.
primarily Eric's well-being. He was the one that really made this happen for us, and as a result, we had our 8,000 square foot garden completely encompassed.
Well, we got it done, and I can't say that we are spiritually well.
Exhaustion was real at this point, and it took many long days and late nights to make all of this happen.
Almost finished. Pretty sure it's 11 p.m. and the mosquitoes have won the war.
I honestly could not be more proud of what we tackled in that first year, from establishing fruit trees to planting perennials, including berry bushes, to all of our annual vegetable crops and herbs. And we even managed to plant beautiful flowers amidst all of this chaos.
I can officially say welcome to the garden.
Although it may seem like the garden was complete at that point, we were far from it, and we still needed to put in the greenhouse. But we decided to take a little break and let the summer get underway. When we circled back to this project, there was more groundwork waiting for us. We got the ground posts in, and for the most part, we got pretty much the entire 30 by 60 framework completed. We took another little break, but this time we didn't make it back before the season came to an end. This is another recurring theme here, and I feel like everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't get it done, if you don't meet that deadline, you literally have to put it off for an entire year.
We had hoped to finish off this beautiful greenhouse behind us. Here it is, October, the ground's frozen. We both thought we may still be able to dig a hole and put some posts in for the end walls, but that's not gonna happen. So it's unfortunate that we're gonna have to do this next spring when we actually need the greenhouse the most.
When winter comes, the garden completely shuts down. We spent a lot of our time going outdoors, even in those months, and doing a lot of cooking and eating that produce that we were able to harvest and store. Now, normally we store all of our seeds in the late winter months inside of our cabin, but this fall we decided that we were going to put in a seed room. The construction of that was expedited, as most of our projects are. It's a 200 square foot building we attached on the back of our shop. It's heated with radiant floor heating. The concrete floor, the concrete block wall, all of the framing, the roofing, the windows all had to be done in the fall months. The interior stuff was all done over the winter, siding on the inside, insulation, electrical work. Very grateful that we were able to have it done in time for starting seeds, and it performed absolutely wonderful for me. going into that spring season. I was rocking and rolling out there until pretty much late April, early May. And that's when things kind of came crashing down. The seed room was full. I was having difficulty managing plants. They were growing out of their pots. Things needed to be transplanted. I needed to get some better airflow going on there. I had aphids attacking our peppers and sweet potatoes. Some of the plants were started too early and were too tall for the shelves. I was starting the process of hardening off our plants outside. Some things I pushed a little too fast. They got a little too cold too quickly. We had a very cool spring. I was possibly battling some sort of fungal diseases with plants. As a whole, I just took on way too much. In my head, I thought this process would go smoother, but the truth is this was just added stress when spring arrived and we went to resume work on the greenhouse. You've got this absolutely monumental season here where everything's emerging and coming to life. The sky is gorgeous, the sun's making an appearance more and more. It's hard to stay down for a long period. And we were able to build speed again and get going. We finished the end walls on the greenhouse. We installed doors, a window in the back, and we got the plastic covering on. Eric and I have built several structures over the years here in Alaska, and this one was definitely not easy. But here we are, we can finally head inside the greenhouse and start planting.
Thanks to Eric for making this happen because it was a huge undertaking and I definitely could not have done it by myself. Here we are out in the greenhouse. We got all of our landscape fabric laid out yesterday.
And originally we were going to put that landscape fabric on the outside of the garden, so not in the greenhouse. That was last year. We didn't get to it, but we came up with the idea to put it in the greenhouse. That way we never have weeds on the floor in there.
No weeds ever. How awesome does that sound? So this fabric is UV treated and it's permeable. It is DeWitt or Sunbelt ground cover landscape fabric. It has a few different names. It lets water and air through, but not weeds. It comes in a 6 by 300 foot roll. It took us almost 2 complete rolls for the greenhouse behind us, which is a 30 by 60.
Install is pretty simple on it. You can kind of do it however you want. We decided to go with an overlap of 1 foot. The fabric's pretty cool. It has lines drawn on it in yellow every single foot. Apparently it makes it easier for planting, but for us it made it easy for the overlay. And if you don't burn this stuff on the ends, if you try to cut it with scissors or a razor blade, it becomes a complete mess. It's woven, so it'll just kind of like fray and you'll end up with all these little pieces of plastic. But if you just draw a line with a Sharpie and then hit it with a propane torch, it cuts like nothing.
For now, we have it held down on the sides with gravel. That worked pretty well. In the front where the actual door closes, we just dug a little ditch and tucked it in there. And we don't really plan to put anything else on it. We'll figure out if we need some sort of special like staple because we have gravel here, not soil. And once we get the beds in there, we feel like that's gonna be enough weight to hold it down.
With the greenhouse built, all the hard work is over. Except for the fact that we got to put a bunch of beds in there and we have to fill them by wheelbarrow because we could no longer fit the tractor inside there.
All by hand, yeah. We got to get to work.
Let's go. This is the wood we're going to be using for the beds. We've got a big stack that we cut on the sawmill. These are all 2x6s, white spruce. Each bed that we're building takes about 9 of them to complete. So they're double stacked 2x6s. Most of them are 20 feet long and 34 inches wide. A couple of them will be a little shorter. Let's get the chop saw set up, generator fired up, and let's start cutting some wood. 118 inches.
118, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so 118 we're cutting all these at.
All right, we just surpassed the halfway mark. So I am putting as many beds as I can fit in here while still allowing us the room to actually work and build them. The rest we're just gonna stack outside. This is a live edge piece and these can go on the tops of the beds. We don't need it to be perfectly, you know, flat up there. We're just working with what we got. So some of this wood is definitely not the most ideal to build with. I definitely personally wouldn't construct like a building with it. When we got those logs the second time around, we just found that they weren't all in perfect condition for sawmilling, but we feel like it's going to be great for this, the garden beds. Some of the wood is actually beautiful. It's really good quality. Where are you going, girlfriend? Over here?
Okay, keep working.
Put you right there. One piece.
Okay, I just didn't know if I should knock this all over.
We're missing 3 pieces.
Okay. Okay, so it took more than an hour to cut the wood, so.
That's a nice one. The unit is headed to the compost pile.
The blob.
Do
There they go. There they go, they're crossing the road.
Did you say the blob?
The blob.
The gang.
There they go.
Do you know what measurement the sides are going to be at? 32?
34.
These seem to be going really quick.
Because I have a jig, I don't have to measure them. This will be the third garden that Arielle and I have designed and built, and if there's one thing we've learned is it's really nice to have a lot of room in between your rows, especially when the plants get towards the end of the season and they're big and overhanging. So the way we're going to do this garden is with a lot of space. We were doing some measurements in here last night and apparently they were a little more complicated than we thought because it took us about 4 tries to get it right, but the measurements are going to be a 4-foot section right here along the wall. Plenty of room to get a wheelbarrow in, do whatever you need to do. Then you're gonna have a bed that's 34 inches wide. You're gonna have another section here, a walkway that is 3 feet 6 inches. You'll have another bed that's 34 inches wide. And then the center walkway is gonna be slightly bigger. It'll be 3 feet 8 inches. And then it'll be the same down that way. And then over here in the back, these 2 beds right here, we're not gonna make them the full 20 feet. They're only gonna be 10 feet. And that is because our big barrel stove that we built is gonna go somewhere in this vicinity right here. Obviously we're gonna have to put something down to protect this weed barrier, otherwise it's gonna burn. And then if we want to put some planters here, we can do that. Over in the center section, we're going to have an 8-foot area right here. That's gonna be plenty of room to put more planters. So we've got these galvanized barrels. We've been cutting them in half and then cutting holes in the bottom. It gives you like a 2-foot diameter little round planter. We're gonna put one of those at the bottom of each bed. And then as far as keeping this cloth on the ground, we're hoping that the beds hold it down. If not, we'll have to come up with something like stakes, or we were even thinking maybe like a big stall mat right when you walk in would really help hold it down. Let's get the generator fired up again, this time with the air compressor, and we're gonna be using the nail gun on these beds.
Stay put. No.
One, two, three, four. So it'll be right. That should be a corner of the bed right there. Yeah, but come on. When you're that good, you don't stop.
Some people stop making really good.
All right, here's our corner. It's fine.
Like that.
Good?
Looking good, huh?
Oh, I broke my wrist.
Honey. Maybe I did, hun.
Okay.
come in? No one let you in today. Come on, beautiful.
These beds are so long and we're putting that soil in there, which is heavy, that if we didn't support them somehow, they would bow out and kind of be misshapen at that point. That's a really weird thing to say. So what we did in the outdoor garden, we're gonna do it in here. We're using 18-inch steel concrete stakes and we put them at the 10-foot mark, one on each side. That way when you put the soil in there, it's got that extra support. That way when you put that soil in there, it's got the extra support. Okay, let's go. Got my BFH.
Your best friend helper?
My best friend helper?
You said BFH?
Yeah.
Oh, your hammer? It's been a super warm day, so we have the sides rolled up, but I am trying to get some tomatoes planted tonight, so I kind of want to conserve some of the heat. I think there's going to be a frost tonight, maybe. That's probably good for him. More soil work this morning. I didn't get our tomatoes in last night like I hoped, but I told them they were going to get in the ground today, and they are. We have 2 of the 3 beds done that we were planting tomatoes in. It's going to be 74 total. I'm very excited about that. If you would have told me you were growing 74 tomatoes in Oregon, I would have thought you were crazy, because we only grew, I think we didn't even grow 20 tomatoes there, and they were very prolific. The season was much longer. You could grow big heirloom type tomatoes and just eat them all season long. Here, that's just not the case. This is Alaska, and although they do work, they don't grow the same, and our season is much shorter. So we have a lot of plants to make up the difference, and we've got about 30 different varieties. 2 of them I don't have. Selfless and Buratino died out not that long ago. I started our tomatoes too early. I think what's been happening more than anything is I'm just kind of honing in our indoor gardening skills, and the plants seem to basically just grow more rapidly than I anticipate. So I will definitely be pushing that back next year, because these plants could definitely be significantly smaller. You can see that they're just like way too big for a little plastic cup here. They've pretty much been doing great all along, but about the last 2 weeks or so, I noticed a few of them were starting to have like this little browning, and a few of them weren't looking too good. It was actually the determinate types that weren't looking very good, so I don't really know why that was the case. Perhaps having the plants in these cups too long, and maybe me just not having good circulation, because when I had them they were like crammed together and they didn't really have good circulation, and I think with me watering on top of them, that maybe didn't promote the healthiest growing environment for them. So I spaced them out, got some good air circulation, and most of them pretty much made it out here looking pretty good. There's a few in the determinate bed that look a little little sketchy, but if they don't make it, I'm just gonna plop a flower in there later in the season. We used to grow a lot more of the indeterminate varieties before moving here. I find the determinates seem to do better. And I think if you're somewhere with a really long growing climate, an indeterminate would be awesome because they just keep growing, right? And you can train them, you can cut them to a certain amount of liters, whereas the determinate, you kind of really want to let them bush out, set all that fruit, and that's where they cap out. With that being said, we do actually have 2/3 indeterminate varieties. This is an indeterminate bed. That's an indeterminate bed. The last one's determinate. Are you investigating that?
Making sure everything's where I want.
I'm not doing too much special today with planting. I usually just pop them out of the cup, break up the roots if they're a little, you know, compacted, and plant them as deep as I can go. So sometimes it's like 6 or more inches. There are a few that are really long and leggy, and I am kind of slanting those if they do already naturally want to lay down. So I've got one more bed to do. Would you like to help me with this bed? Even if we get really cold still, it's really warm in here. Whoa. Did it go further from the soil you have to bring by?
Yes, that is.
There we go. That's a good example of what I was talking about earlier. I started our corn later than usual, and it is much bigger than it typically is at planting time. And these are in smaller cells. Actually a really cool tray that I got. I think I got it in Canada. And I usually have them in the red cups, which are quite a bit bigger. So it is surprising that they are this size already. I was thinking I was going to run them in like a double fashion along this bed, but I have had an issue with pollination inside the greenhouse. We do have the roll-up sides, so I think we're going to get a lot of wind in here, and that may not be an issue with this greenhouse, but I thought it'd be a better decision to kind of clump them up and group them over the side, and then we're going to do the cucumbers and the rest of this bed. More than 12. That's what we came to the conclusion of. Although I don't think I have as many as I think because Muncher's not looking too good.
Getting started on the beginnings of a cable system that's going to run along the top here for tying up plants to let them kind of trellis up. And this is all stuff that's from our old greenhouse at the other property. So we're getting to reuse some things. We're going to go through the bows on this one. I've already drilled it through. We're going to run this cable, which looks like this. Nice sturdy cable. And then we're going to put a turnbuckle in the middle. That way we can tighten it up if we need to. Look at that.
Those cucumbers took a lot longer than I was expecting. I started them a little later than usual this year, and not all of them were like had the best root system, and I was trying to be super careful because they're cucumbers. I'm moving on to this bed. Gonna do ground cherries. We haven't really been super successful with them in the past. I'm gonna try eggplants again because I like eggplants, and I will be putting our sweet potato slips in this bed. They were hit pretty hard with the aphids and that spray, but they did make a recovery. They look pretty good now. So we've picked the best ones out. We're gonna plant those. The eggplants also have aphids, sadly, and they look a little damaged from some of the stuff we've been kind of trying to like combat the aphids with. In an ideal world, I would have beautiful transplants to put into the ground, but I'm gonna make do with what we got. I think they will still work out. This actually works really well. I think
It gets some of them off, right?
Oh, it gets more than some of them off. I'm sure you're supposed to use soap, but I just don't really want to. I'm just using water but I not accidentally, I already planted two, so I had to dig them up.
Yeah, you probably have to put it on now, or you can put it on when they're done.
I have to do it pretty much when they're done because Whoa, that's a big old root system there. Quite a chop. Pretty neat. You can actually tell the difference in the purple sweet potato and the orange flesh because of their leaves. This one has like a really just more of a narrow shaped leaf. This is the purple variety. Orange flesh has a heart-shaped leaf. This is a really obvious example because it's a much larger plant, but even on the small plants, when they first send out their leaves, they're like definitely more heart-shaped. We're not gonna really hurt them because they're fine, so we can literally just put them on them and then we can kind of figure out where you're at and say, hey, cut a hole.
Put it on, staple, and we'll come by and cut it afterwards. Right?
Yeah. So my last plant, yeah, it's way easier. Yeah, because I was having a hard time getting it going, like, yay! Bring the tips of the vines back to where I think they're gonna grow now.
Should be able to stick it in. Yeah, right?
Okay.
Got it heavy where it wouldn't dump it, so this isn't the heaviest we've had. And I was moving this all over here from there.
Yeah, that was really heavy. There's still just a little on the top, but all the backs come out. She's good. We're out here by our massive compost pile behind me, and Eric just dropped a load of steer manure that we picked up the other day. We made the long journey to Fairbanks. Pretty cool though. We got to see a mom and her two newly born baby calves. We actually went to pick up ladybugs specifically because of the aphid problem that we're having, and we also utilized the opportunity to pick up some new pepper plants since ours were pretty damaged. Got a few other supplies for the garden. We're back out here. We've been out here doing a bunch of gardening still. Anytime we're out on that long of a trip, it's just nice to bring a trailer along. That way you can pick up extra supplies, and in this case it was more manure. Check out this soil. It's good to go. Eric just flipped all of this stuff over here. So we tried to do like a 50-50 mixture of our native soil that has been screened. We did that last year, and 50% some sort of like compost or manure. We will get cow manure, horse manure throughout the year, just kind of collect it. Follow the channel, you know we take our composting pretty seriously, and all of our food waste also gets composted, so everything food related makes it over to the pile, and it's all been mixed in to this gorgeous mix we have here. This is what Eric's been bringing in with all of those wheelbarrows. The piles over here, as I mentioned, are just huge. We have a pile in the back that is the native soil that hasn't been screened. So it's got like fireweed, roses, a whole bunch of other stuff regrowing in it. And that's a big pile that Eric did screen. It is pretty much only growing dandelion, so pretty easy to pick out. This was a pile that we made up last year. It was like 50-50, and we had it set aside because we knew we were gonna be filling up those beds this year, but we pretty much depleted it at this point. Just a few days ago, our soil was actually still frozen when Eric was getting in there with the tractor. Huge chunk of compost here. It's like completely frozen. The compost pile in particular was pretty frozen, and it's pretty cool. You can tell all the different colors from each one. The compost pile is always darker, and it does grow lamb's quarter. That's the only weed that comes in it. Thankfully, that's not too bad of a weed to pull. Our native soil is a little lighter. It's a little reddish, and it also is very dusty. We've had a lot of winds out here lately. It's pretty windy, unfortunately, again today. Eric's gonna make some more planters out of the steel barrels, and I am going to start on some planting in the greenhouse.
Going like that.
So we're gonna have 2 rows of peppers, and we're probably using maybe like 20 of the plants that I had started. They really didn't make a full recovery at all. Actually, they started to regrow from the last time I talked about them, and I thought we were gonna be able to use more of them. They still had a lot of aphids, and that was a concern. So we've got the other nursery plants over in that row. Pretty cool. We're gonna have like 80 pepper plants. And the reason I have to be super careful with this first row is I've already released some ladybugs. I think it was yesterday morning. I put them on these aphid infested plants. I'm pretty excited. Some of them actually stuck around. So they're in here, and I'm just trying to be kind of careful while I'm planting them, giving the plants some water and not trying to blast the ladybugs away. We also had a neighbor donate, I think like 18 plants we got from her. They're also pretty extreme into gardening. We did a little trade of plants, and they said it has been a horrible aphid year. They've been trying to battle them with not too much success, so that made me feel a little better. It's super hot working in here, but that's what we're doing today. We have a lot of planting to do in here. You're gonna go. You gotta get out of the way, little guy. Okay, I'm gonna keep planting on the other side. I think I got them spread out how they should be. I'll finish up with the cucumbers, the herbs, and then
I can build that trellis by myself. I don't need your help with that one.
oh, that's what I was just asking.
But this one, I don't know how we're gonna build that one.
The green bean one? Eric built us this snazzy zigzag trellis. This is our squash bed, so summer squash. We also have zucchini and winter squash in here. They don't really trellis that well. You kind of have to like force them to. I think this is gonna work out pretty cool. We got these planted 2 nights ago. I think there's about 30 something squash in there, and we are moving on to some more trellising. We have some really cool hooks that we're trying out this year for the tomatoes. Let's hope that means that we'll have lots more lady beetles in here. These are known as tomahawks, and I'm pretty excited to try these. I really took my time thinking about how I wanted to deal with the plants in here and just keep them pretty manageable. We're gonna kind of figure out how they work together, but there is a cable running along the top that Eric already installed, and this hook will sit on there. There's going to be twine that we bought. We purchased it separately. You can also get them kind of already pre-strung. And this is poly twine, so it's got some sort of UV coating on there. It's great for greenhouses and not breaking down. Eric's gonna be stringing this on here, and you use these little clips. They are little plastic clips that you just clip around the plant. So this is a commonly used system for tomatoes, but you can use it for other things at trellis. We also plan to use it on the cucumbers, and we're just gonna do it together and see how it goes.
It's like 7 o'clock already.
Nah, it's like 6.
That's not.
Yes, it is. I checked earlier. When I made the PBs, it was like, because you're cooling down, huh? Which may happen. But once they get bigger, everything's just easier and like. Well, we did not finish, and that's not because we didn't try, it's because I did my math wrong. So we didn't have enough of that twine. I think where I went wrong is I wasn't planning on doing this for the determinate bed of tomatoes, but we did end up using that. And we also did the tomatillos, which are at the end of that bed, so it just ate up more of this twine, and I think it's gonna take a little while to get some more. Clearly it takes a very long time, more than I anticipated, but once you set it up, that's it. It's pretty much you're set for subsequent years, and I think it's well worth our time now to do this. We're absolutely exhausted. It's pretty late at night already. We've been out here just gardening like full throttle every day. We are going to release the ladybugs that we have left tonight. When we were trellising these up or stringing them up, I was also kind of cutting the leaves that had some sort of fungus. That's also why I really wanted to get them off the ground now, because they weren't super healthy when I planted them. I've already watered the whole greenhouse. They say you want to have water on the plants when you release the ladybugs, and unfortunately a few of them were sleeping and I kind of knocked them off, and so you don't really want to water when they're sleeping. I learned that the hard way. We're going to open these containers up, probably one on the pepper bed and maybe one over down there where the eggplants or the tomatillos are, because there's aphids there too. I think maybe I'll put like a little stick in there or something like that. This goes without saying, these are insects, so they have the ability to just fly off whenever they want, and that's exactly what they'll do. I don't expect all of them to stay. I don't think that all of them make it. We purchased over 2,000 for this greenhouse. They say like 1 ladybug per square foot, depending upon the infestation, and that's just to be expected. So they're wild. We can't do much about it, but we're hoping that some of them stick around, and so far it looks like quite a few of them have. So a lot of ladybugs today. Okay, they're not getting off my hand. I usually use a leaf. Another day out here, I'm plugging in some flowers into the bed, sunflowers, marigolds, things like that. And I'm also transplanting up some overwintered plants that we had and some nursery plants, things that would probably appreciate the warmth inside the greenhouse. Didn't start out windy, but it is very windy again today. So I've got more to do in here, and then I've got to head outside and hopefully finish up the flowers and be done with everything outdoors. Doing some midday dandelion picking. We're heading inside. We're gonna clean these up and make some tea out of them. Oh, I missed. This is gonna be super simple. We have our cleaned flowers and we're gonna add clean water. We are using honey, some tangerines we have on hand, and a lemon, and also some ginger. And then it is going to ferment on its own, but because we have a ferment available to us, I have some June tea similar to kombucha. I'm gonna actually pour a good splash of that in here, kind of boost them, and they will be ready in a few days. We're doing the usual with fertilizers this year. I really like to use these granular fertilizers from Down to Earth, is where I get most of them from, and they slowly release the nutrients, which is pretty cool. So like you're putting them in now, but then you can still kind of have all that available to the plants several months later. Right now I'm making up a blend of a few different things: gypsum, langbonite, I don't know if I'm saying that right, azomite, rock phosphate, and green stone. And some of those are just like base things I'm putting in the beds because it's their first year. You know, we put their soil in. I don't typically add these year after year. And then from there, I also will add others depending upon what the plants need. Some of them like a lot more fertilizers. And I also use liquid fertilizers too. Liquid fertilizers is so much better. You know, if you first plant a plant and you want to just like hit it with a little boost, like fish or kelp. And it's also good for really high nitrogen plants like Brussels, onions, garlic, corn, stuff like that too. There was fertilizer in here. I spread it on the tomato beds, but I honestly couldn't remember what it was. I gotta get some taller bamboo sticks for this kind of thing, huh? Because they do take a long time to flower. Remember ours didn't flower till really late summer?
Pull it through.
It bounced. This would be good if it bounced like that through a bunch of strings. I was trying to work with. Pretty cool to see this dream come to life. This was our little outlay of the indoor garden. I think I drew this up when there was still snow on the ground. It's been awesome in here so far. We come out and work and it's already warmed up in the morning, even when it's not that warm outside. It's been a super cool spring. We're very excited for this new space. We just spent probably a good hour cleaning things up, tidying up. It's been a construction zone out here and, you know, in here and outside. So we got that all cleaned up. Let's walk around and take a look. This is the last thing that Eric and I did. Second to last thing, we put up some sweet peas. They're on this cool little trellis, although I'm pretty sure they're going to surpass it very quickly. I started these too early. They do have absolutely gorgeous flowers. We grew them for the first time last year. There's 2 of these beds. We ran short on some twine too for our climbing or our pole green beans. The space that these beds have has been very ample, and when I go to plant, I just think, I can fill all this space. So I wasn't anticipating to put some beans in between the peppers, but because it's so wide, I don't feel like the 2 peppers, ours just don't get that long in one season, really need that much space. And we utilized it for some pole beans and also bush beans at the end. We did the same thing with this other pepper bed, but we kept it single file. These are some of those nursery plants. They're a little bit bigger and fuller, and they're also happen to be a hair tighter when we planted them. When we went to Fairbanks, we were doing some greenhouse hopping. I was pretty pleased with the varieties that we found. So we're mainly growing hot varieties, jalapenos and serranos. Usually those just do best for us, and we don't like our peppers extremely hot. And we've got a lot of banana peppers. We also have a good amount of bell peppers. cucumbers and just other various kinds that we are trying. The ladybugs are still looking good. They've been a little bit tricky to work around. I'm trying not to harm them, but I wanted to say thank you to those that gave us suggestions and helpful tips on the aphids. The reason we went this route is because I had a spray that I was using. It was like a mint spray. I would make it up with some essential oils, and I made it up really strong the last time and it actually burnt some of the foliage. So I just was like, that's it. I'm not doing these sprays anymore. You know, I may do it as the plants get older. I just wanted to try something different, and I think these guys are helping us out. I did end up cramming in a lot of our plants, so these beds will be very, very full and overflowing probably, but at least the aisleways will be, you know, nice and big. It's been awesome in here with all the trays and the wheelbarrows coming in and out. One more quick note, we do plan to stake the pepper plants if they get big enough, and I don't think that'll happen this year, right? But we have these bamboo sticks. We got them for a super good deal, like 100 for 15 bucks. And those clips, those little plastic clips, work perfect on them, Eric figured out. So this is a good example right here. You can never have enough basil. We have some mixed in with our cucumbers, and it also has its own little barrel. Corn's looking awesome. There's some dill along the cucumbers as well. We did plant some more bush beans or shelling beans at the end of the eggplant row, and I'm pretty excited because I feel like I can do anything really with this garden in the future if I don't want to grow as many of certain plants, or if I want to just completely not grow something. So it just feels like there's a lot of opportunity. We have still a massive amount of space back here for that stove. We need to leave that, but there's quite a bit of room that we could probably put some sort of planters. We just don't have time to build anything like that. Right now I'm using these grow bags. I put the artichokes in those and some of the drums. Everything is out of that seed room. It is so cool. The only thing that's in there is our lemon tree and a few of the Cuban oreganos. I like to try and overwinter some of these plants, and I'm learning that it's best to keep them in a pot their whole life rather than like taking them, putting them in a bigger pot, you know, for the summer and then ripping them up in the fall and having them try to make roots again and then be good to go for the winter. So I've got some stuff in permanent pots now that I can just, you know, bring back and forth. We also have some plants outdoors. Similar situation like lavender, and that's where we're headed. At this point, it's a good feeling that everything is done being planted and sowed. So no more seeds to sow or anything like that. I've gotten herbs in, I've gotten all our flowers in. I had to do this bed with some vegetables the other day, and all of those like little beds on the outlying fence, those are all planted in. We do have some perennials that are still like, I'm not certain if they're coming back, so I'm holding tight on those. Some stuff that has come back, which is pretty cool. We've had French sorrel, we've had mint, creeping thyme, chives, our asparagus, very exciting on that. At our old property, that didn't do very well. Still waiting on the strawberries. The garlic is a little bit slow, so we've got it coming up on the edges. We're still missing a lot of spots, and I have been kind of playing around with it and checking it. Some of them have rotted, which is a little bit upsetting. I still have hope for a lot of them, and I think we have a new tactic how we're going to be growing it from now on. We're going to have more to follow on that, but we are going to pick dinner for now, and that's it for the evening.
Oh, yeah. When you go all winter without eating fresh vegetables or greens, when the salad stuff is ready, we go to town on it. So we've been having salads this big for like the past week. Every single night we throw all kinds of good stuff in there, like salmon, dressing, nuts. We have lettuces, arugula, mustard, spinach, all kinds of good stuff in there. A couple radishes that are ready, and the tactic that we use, because everything's going to start coming to life in this garden and being ready, is chop down the whole plant when they're nice and small and tender.